Some people seem to glide through life while others struggle just to keep their heads above water. In this video, I'll explain exactly why that happens, and it has nothing to do with how hard you work or how good a person you are. I know this, not because I read it somewhere, but because I have lived it. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly why the playing field was never level, why that was never your fault, and what you can start doing differently from today. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Life is unfair, not occasionally, not temporarily, fundamentally, structurally, and in many cases, permanently unfair. And no amount of positive thinking, hard work, or idealism is going to change that. Now, I'm not here to depress you. I'm here to tell you something that I genuinely believe will free you. Because once you truly understand why life is unfair, and more importantly, what kind of unfairness you're actually dealing with, something shifts. The exhausting fight you've been having with reality begins to lose its grip on you. But first, an important distinction. There are actually two very different kinds of unfairness in this world, and mixing them up is a mistake. The first kind is human-created unfairness. Corrupt systems, rigged institutions, skewed playing fields deliberately designed to benefit some people at the expense of others. That kind of unfairness is wrong, unethical, immoral, and it deserves to be challenged wherever it exists. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the second kind, the deeper, more fundamental unfairness that exists beneath all human systems. The kind nobody designed, nobody can legislate away, and nobody can fully fix. The unfairness that is simply woven into the fabric of human existence itself. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. The moment you were born, a lottery had already been drawn on your behalf, and you had absolutely no say in any of it. Think about geography alone. A child born in a wealthy, peaceful, developed country enters a world of good health care, quality education, and real opportunity. A child born the same day in a conflict-torn or deeply impoverished part of the world enters an entirely different reality, where the ceiling on what is achievable is dramatically lower, regardless of how talented or hardworking that child turns out to be. Same species, same potential, completely different lives, decided before either of them took their first breath. And then there's the family you're born into. Children born into wealthy, well-connected families inherit not just money, but networks, confidence, and opportunity. Research consistently shows that your parents' socioeconomic status is one of the strongest predictors of your own life outcomes. Not your talent, not your work ethic, just the point where you started. I know this personally. I was born and raised in a middle-income family in a developing country at a time when shortages were abundant and opportunities were scarce. That starting point shaped everything. What was available to me, what felt possible, the hurdles I had to overcome, and the struggles I had to endure to achieve a moderate amount of success later in life. But the unfairness doesn't stop at the circumstances you're born into. There are the personal attributes you were either given or weren't. Physical appearance, for instance, isn't just about vanity. Studies have consistently shown that taller, more physically attractive people earn higher wages, are promoted more readily, and are perceived as more competent, even when they're not. That's simply not fair, but it's real. As if that weren't enough, such people also tend to attract equally attractive partners, and so the genetic advantages quietly multiply across generations. It's not a coincidence that so many affluent people also happen to be very good-looking. Let's talk of intelligence, perhaps the most consequential advantage of all in the modern world. The ability to think clearly, learn quickly, and solve complex problems is not something that can be fully taught or trained. To a significant degree, you are either born with it or you aren't, and those who are tend to move through life with a cognitive ease that quietly compounds every other advantage they already have. And then there are the personality qualities that open doors: natural charisma, self-confidence, the gift of the gab, personal gravitas, the ability to walk into a room and immediately make an impression. These attributes are worth an enormous amount in this world, and they are distributed with breathtaking unevenness. You either have them or you don't. I'll be honest with you. I'm largely an introvert. My intelligence has limits. I've struggled with self-confidence and motivation for much of my life. I don't have a naturally engaging voice or the kind of presence that commands a room, which is, incidentally, why I make faceless videos rather than putting myself in front of a camera. And for a long time, I resented that. I looked at people who seemed to effortlessly have what I lacked and felt something between envy and indignation. Maybe you know that feeling too. Here's what I eventually understood, and this is the part I really want you to hear. Every person who has achieved something significant in life did so with the help of at least one unfair advantage. The successful entrepreneur had family wealth, or a supportive network, or exceptional intelligence, or simply the mental stability to take risks others couldn't afford. The celebrated athlete was born with a physiology most people could never replicate, no matter how hard they trained. Nobody arrives at success on pure merit alone. Nobody. So the playing field was never level. It never has been. Let me know in the comments if you too feel the same way. Moving on. So what do we actually do about this? The first thing, and I say this as someone who had to learn it the hard way, is to stop emotionally fighting the fundamental unfairness of life. Not because fighting is wrong, but because fighting what simply cannot be changed is the best way to make yourself miserable. Resentment at the hand you were dealt extracts an enormous cost. It drains the energy you need for everything else. You need to replace resentment with acceptance. But please don't misunderstand. Acceptance is not giving up. It is not defeat. It is simply the honest acknowledgement that certain things were never within your control, were never your fault, and are not going to change. And that acknowledgement gives you power. It is the beginning of a quieter, more sustainable, and ultimately more fulfilling way of living. Part of that acceptance is releasing yourself from the pressure of comparison. If you weren't born with the advantages others have, measuring yourself against them isn't just painful, it's irrational. Your benchmark isn't them. Your benchmark is the best version of what is genuinely possible for you, from where you actually started. Now here's something most people never think about. The same unfairness that disadvantaged you in some ways almost certainly gave you something in return. Perhaps a particular kind of intelligence, an insight that only comes from having struggled, a survival strategy that people who had it easier simply never had to develop, a perspective on life that is genuinely rare and valuable. Find those things. Find them honestly, without false modesty, and then use them fully and without guilt. Because if the world is going to be unfair in the ways it has disadvantaged you, it is entirely reasonable and entirely ethical to make the most of every modest advantage it has quietly handed you in return. Everybody who has ever gotten anywhere has done exactly that, and so can you. And in case you're wondering, I identified versatility as one of my unfair advantages early on and used it to the hilt. My inherent ability to be flexible, learn new things, and switch domains and skill sets ultimately helped me pursue a rather decent career in the corporate world despite all my other shortcomings. You didn't choose the country you were born in, the family that raised you, the face you wear, or the mind you think with. None of that was yours to decide. But there is one choice that remains yours regardless of all of that, and it is not a small one. It is the choice between spending your life in exhausting, fruitless conflict with the way things are, or directing your energy toward building the best possible life within the reality you actually inhabit. Life will never become fair, but a life lived in honest acceptance of that fact and in quiet, determined pursuit of what is genuinely possible within it is not a lesser life. In many ways, it is a braver and more honest life than most people ever find the courage to live. If this video has resonated with you, please give it a like to support my channel. And if you find these kinds of honest, heartfelt conversations helpful, consider subscribing so we can build a little corner of the world for people like us. People who are simply trying to make peace with the way things are. Here's another conversation waiting for you whenever you're ready. Until next time, take care.